At this very moment, the WNBA's future is being negotiated, literally. Hey, welcome back to Baseline Full Court Press, the podcast where women's basketball gets the spotlight, the smoke, and the respect. I'm your host, Patience, and today we'll be getting into the WNBA CBA negotiations, the current CBA, what the players want, and does this make sense for the WNBA to comply with the players' wants and needs. First off, what is a CBA? It is a collective bargaining agreement. This is something that the WNBA and the WNBPA, which is the WNBA Players Association, comes together on an agreement, and this typically takes place every 4 years. All WNBA players are invited to participate in this agreement, as well as share their inputs and voting on whether to accept a proposed agreement. Now, the CBA agreement includes a multitude of things. That includes security, salary cap, player contracts, scheduling, off-season play, and revenue share, as well as healthcare benefits and retirement. Now, the WNBPA did go ahead and opt out of their 2020 CBA bargaining agreement as of 2024. And ever since then, the WNBA and the Players Association have been trying to come to terms on just what a 2026 CBA agreement should look like. And the deadline to accept the proposed agreement is October 31st. And I'll also get into what happens if neither party agrees to any terms. It's come to my attention that a lot of people actually don't know what's inside the CBA. So let's get into the terms of the current CBA. All teams have a salary cap on total player salaries, and that salary cap hardly budgets for anything except for hardships, which is very hard to get, and emergency exceptions. And I'm pretty sure the WNBA deems whether or not the emergency is urgent enough. And as far as raises, the current CBA has a 3% annual raise on all salaries. And as far as revenue sharing and player shares, players currently receive a 9.3% share of all league revenue. Also, the WNBA does have to reach a certain amount of revenue before the players can get their 9.3%. And there is a opt-out clause in every CBA. Although this CBA was signed in 2020, it was expected to go until 2027, but they did have the option to opt out in 2024, which they did. So the current CBA does go over things such as travel, facilities, health and retirement, maternity leave, and 401k. So the current CBA does have rules on who is eligible for the draft and exactly what qualifications you have to have. Now, what exactly do the players want? As far as salary cap, they just want it to be higher, especially for the star players on the team. As far as raises, they do want them to go higher, but they haven't put out a specific number. The argument seems to be that the 3% raise does not constitute for the exponential growth of the WNBA, which it doesn't. 3% is simply not enough. For revenue sharing, the players just want something that is fair and relative to all other leagues, even if they are operating at a loss. Most teams have a set 45 to 50% of revenue that the players get, especially in the NBA. As far as other benefits and working conditions, players are pushing for better family planning, maternity, retirement facilities. For most players of the WNBA, they are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, meaning that a lot of them do have to go through IVF in order to have children. And that is considered family planning, but that is not something that is addressed in the current CBA, as well as surrogacy. The players would also like to have extending support to spouses or other parents involved beyond just the mother, which means ultimately expanding to parental leave. The players are also advocating for what happens after basketball. The players want a pension plan, long-term injury care, as well as disability care, because they feel as though the current benefits do not reflect the injuries and the risks that come with playing in the WNBA. Among other things, players also want better locker rooms as well as better training rooms to help them with injury recovery. They just want to change some of the draft rules and some of the eligibility rules for the WNBA, such as you have to be 25 or above to even qualify for the WNBA. Also, the players want better scheduling. The WNBA currently has 44 regular in-season games, and each team has around 11 to 12 people on them. And that is not including injuries. With such a small bench, injuries are bound to happen. And there needs to be better scheduling. Majority of the time, there's about 3 games on at one time. Kathy, 3? What's going on? And that also helps the WNBA because viewership, if neither side comes to an agreement by October 31st, which is the deadline, either there can be an extension on the deadline, which will happen regardless if they have not reached an agreement. And then if it goes further than that, then there will be a work stoppage or a lockout. And those are exactly what you think they are. Work stoppage, no WNBA play. Lockout, no players can even go into the facilities. For the people who are saying, oh, well, the players won't take it that far, they won't have a work stoppage, or there won't be a lockout. And did you know that in 2003, the WNBA draft and the start of the season were both delayed due to work stoppage? And I've been seeing a lot of comments that are saying that the players are whining. They should be lucky for what they're getting now. Nobody even watches the WNBA. A majority of salary caps in businesses rise as the revenue rises. And yes, this agreement was made when the WNBA was not in the position that they are in now, but now they are in that position and now it is time for a change. I've also been seeing people say, well, the WNBA is not profitable. So how do they expect to make more money? And it's funded by the NBA working at a negative outcome. Even though it's not profiting, players deserve to be overworked and underpaid. Is that what you're saying? No, that is not how businesses work. Let's be real here. The NBA operated at a loss for 40 years, and they were able to still pay Michael Jordan exactly what he was worth. Within business, these things happen. You have to invest in your players, you have to invest in your business, especially when your players are the ones driving your revenue. Also, the NBA is an investor in the WNBA. Investor. So let's say that the biggest issue is pay. Raising the pay moderately benefits both the players and the WNBA. Higher salaries mean players do not have to go overseas and they can spend more time advertising for the WNBA. More off court promotion and higher fan engagement. The more fans who watch, the more media deals, the more sponsorships. This benefits everyone. So the smarter take is not pay them like the NBA players now. It's increase pay proportionately with the growth of the league, enough to keep the league sustainable and the players invested. Now that was the entire rundown of the CBA. If you're looking for more women's basketball content, don't forget to tune in every Thursday for a new episode. Thank you so much for joining.